Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Mr. Abdullah Amin, and this is the first biology lesson, which is talking about the Punnett square and heredity. Okay, so Punnett square and heredity. Okay, in this part, inshallah, we are going to know what is Punnett square and what is a probability, and how can we express a probability by ratio and by percentage. Okay, but guys, before we start this lesson, we have to know some things. We have to know the difference between genotype and phenotype. As we know before, the genotype, which is combination of alleles that you inherit from the parents, and we always write it with the letters, and the phenotype, which is like the observable trait or the physical trait. So the genotype maybe B capital, B small, and the phenotype, which is like the observable trait or the physical trait, which is like the blue flower color. Okay, one thing else, guys, we have to know the allele, and we know that the allele, which is like different versions of genes, and we know the allele may be dominant or recessive, and we always write the dominant with a capital letter and recessive with the lowercase or small letters. Maybe the organisms, guys, may be heterozygous or homozygous for a certain trait. If it's homozygous, that means we have two dominant alleles or two recessive alleles. So B capital, or B small. But in the case of heterozygous, when the organism is heterozygous for a specific trait, that means we have one dominant allele and one recessive allele. Okay, so let's start, guys. What is Punnett square? Punnett square is a graphic used to predict the possible genotype of offspring in a given cross. What does it mean? So Punnett square, as you can see, guys, in this picture, guys, we have like four squares beside each other. We use this tool to understand the pattern of heredity. As we know, the traits can pass from the parents to the offspring in pattern. One of the tools that help us to know these patterns is a Punnett square. So it's a graphic used to predict the possible genotype. So we have genotype, we are going to put the genotype in these squares in a given cross, which is mating between the male part and the female part. Okay, so as we know, guys, we have like all of our traits, or all of the organism's traits, are stored in the DNA in the chromosomes, and we know the homologous chromosomes, which are pair of chromosomes that have the same structure, the same length, and carry the same gene. So as we can find, guys, we have like gene, this gene, for example, if we are talking about the seed shape, so maybe this gene is wrinkled, this gene is wrinkled. So we have two different versions or two same versions of genes according, so we have two alleles. Okay, so each parent has two alleles for particular gene responsible for a specific trait. So, for example, if we're talking about like the seed color, maybe like this seed color is purple and the other seed color is purple. If we have like two different alleles, if we have like the flower color, this is like blue, this is red. So we have like two different alleles. So each trait as like it's come from two alleles from the parents, one from each parent, one from the mother and one from the father, or one from the male part and one from the female part. Okay. Okay, so a Punnett square, which is like have some squares, four squares, or so four compartments, okay, that show you the combination of allele in the offspring. Okay, one last thing about the Punnett square, actually, it doesn't tell you what will be. Actually, it tells you what could be. It means it doesn't show you, or it doesn't tell you the exact results of a cross will be. Okay, so it doesn't tell you what will be, it tells you what could be. Okay, let's take an example, guys. If we have like the two parents, blue flower and white flower, and the blue flower, which is like have a dominant dominant to the white, because we have like a B capital here and B small, and the recessive, it will also appear when we have two recessive allele. How can we deal with Punnett square? Simply, we put one parent on the top of the Punnett square, like B capital, B small. We put one allele above each square, and the other one on the left side of the Punnett square. So we put b small, b small. Okay, and then guys, simply we multiply this letter by this letter. So the first one will be b capital, b small. The second one, who can tell me? Yes, b small, b small. The third one, which is b capital, b small. And the last one, it should be b small, b small. Okay, so in the Punnett square, as we can see, we can see, guys, the possible genotype of the offspring, the possible genotype of the offspring. So we can find the probability of certain outcomes of certain kind of organism to the total number. We can find the probability. So what is probability, guys? Probability is what? Probability is mathematical chances of a specific outcome in relation to the total number of possible outcome. So if we're talking about the probability of the blue to the total, or probability of the white to the total, we can express it in two ways. So probability, we can express the probability in two ways. We can express in the form of ratio. So the ratio of the blue to the total, or the ratio of the white to the total. As we can see, how many blue flower, we have 1, 2 blue flowers to the total, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the blue flower is just 2 blue flowers to the total amount of flowers, which is 4. So the blue flower is 2 to 4, 2 to 4, and also the white flower is 2 to 4. Okay, so this is the probability in the form of ratio. What about if we talking about the probability in the form of percentage? Okay, so how many percent of a blue flower in this given cross? Simply we can find it like 50-50. So the blue flower is 50% and the white flower is also 50%. Okay, let's take an example, guys. Can you open the page 139? You can find this example about pea plant. And as we know, guys, the pea plant, which have two shapes. We have like round shape and wrinkle shape. Okay, and this is the example in the book. Here, guys, the key for this question are capital, which is round, P allele, and R small, which is wrinkled, B P allele. Okay, first of all, we have to write the genotype and the phenotype of both parents. So the genotype of this parent, which is R capital, R small, and of course it will be round. Why round? Because this is the phenotype of this seed. And we have like R capital, which is a dominant allele, because we write it with a capital letter. And the other one, it will be at the R capital, R small, and it will always be round. Okay, let's see, guys, the possible offspring. Here, guys, in the first square, we have R capital, R small. The second one, we have R small, R capital, but we write capital first, guys, R capital, R small. In the third one, we have R capital and R small, and the last one we have R small, R small. What about the phenotype, guys? The phenotype, we know that the observable trait. So any P shape, or it have two forms, round or wrinkled. So if you can find the dominant allele, one dominant or two dominant, of course it will be round. So this is one dominant, it will be round, one dominant, it will be round. So the last one we have two recessive, so it will be wrinkled. Okay. Okay. Another example, guys, in the page 141. This example, we have like this cross between guinea pigs and the genotype of parents and the genotype of offspring. And the question which is asking about what is the probability of a cross resulting in offspring with a black fur. Number one, guys, letter A, what do you know? What do we know from this cross? We know the possible genotype, we know the parent genotype is B capital, B small, B capital, B small. Okay, so what do you want to find out? We need to find out what? What is the probability of the cross resulting in offspring with black fur? So we need to find the probability of the black fur in offspring. C, count the total number of offspring. The total number is what? 1, 2, 3, 4. Total number of the offspring 4. Count the number of allele combination will result in offspring with a black fur. 1, 2, 3. Write the probability of offspring with a black fur as a ratio. So we have 1, 2, 3, and the total, which is 4. So we have to write 3 to 4. Rewrite the ratio to express the probability out of 100. So it will be 75 to 100 if each square is like 25, 25, 25. So it will be 75 to 100. Then we convert this ratio to the percentage. So 75, it will be 75%. So our answer would be, or will be, 75% the chance of offspring with a black fur. Okay, and this is everything about the part 1. See you next time.